Why do some people never tell anyone they're hurting, even when they're carrying more pain than anyone realizes? Why do they keep smiling, keep helping everyone else, and keep saying, "I'm fine," when they clearly are not? Maybe you've met someone like that. Or maybe that person is you. From the outside, you look strong, calm, reliable. The person everyone depends on. But inside, you are fighting battles nobody knows exist. The strange thing is that this silence is often mistaken for strength. People admire how independent you seem. But what if that silence is not a sign of strength at all? What if it is something your mind learned years ago, to protect you from getting hurt again? Today, we're going to explore the hidden psychology behind people who never tell anyone they're hurting. And by the end of this video, you may finally understand why staying silent can feel safer than asking for help. The first thing you need to understand is this. People who hide their pain are rarely the weakest people in the room. In fact, they often appear to be the strongest. They are dependable, calm under pressure, always ready to support someone else. But that strength can be deceptive. Very often, it is not confidence, it is protection. Over the years, they have learned to wear emotional armor so well that even the people closest to them cannot see what is happening underneath. They convince themselves that staying silent is the responsible thing to do. That showing pain will only disappoint others, or make them look weak. So instead of asking for comfort, they become the person who comforts everyone else. Instead of admitting they are struggling, they carry the weight alone. The tragedy is that the longer they play this role, the harder it becomes to step out of it. Because eventually, they no longer know how to let anyone see the person hiding behind the smile. So where does this pattern begin? For many people, it starts much earlier than they realize. Imagine a child crying after a difficult day. Instead of being comforted, they hear, "Stop being so sensitive, it's not a big deal. You'll be fine." The words may seem harmless, but to a child's brain, they carry a powerful message. My feelings don't matter. If I show my pain, people won't understand. Over time, the brain adapts. It stops expecting comfort. It stops asking for support. Instead, it learns that hiding emotions is the safest option. Psychologists call this emotional suppression. It is not simply choosing to stay quiet. It is a survival strategy the mind develops after repeated emotional invalidation. Years later, that child becomes an adult who automatically says, "I'm okay," even when they are clearly not. Not because they enjoy suffering alone, but because their brain has spent years believing that silence is safer than vulnerability. Eventually, hiding pain no longer feels like a choice. It feels like part of who they are. And that is why changing this pattern is often much harder than simply deciding to open up. But there is another reason this silence becomes so difficult to break. Many people who hide their pain believe that sharing it would make them a burden. They think, if I tell someone what I'm going through, I'll only make their life harder. So they listen to everyone else's problems. They offer advice. They provide comfort. They become the person everyone can rely on. Yet when they need that same support, they quietly convince themselves they should handle it alone. At first, this may seem kind and selfless. But underneath that kindness is a painful belief that everyone else's emotions matter more than their own. Over time, they place themselves at the bottom of their own priority list. They become experts at carrying other people's weight, while pretending their own doesn't exist. And that creates one of the loneliest experiences a person can have. Being surrounded by people, yet feeling like there is no one they can truly lean on. The second hidden reason is something psychologists often call broken trust. Most people who never talk about their pain were not always this way. At some point, they tried. They trusted someone enough to say, "I'm not okay." But instead of finding comfort, they were ignored. Their feelings were dismissed. They were told they were overreacting. Or worse, their vulnerability was shared with someone else. In that single moment, something changed. The brain made a simple but powerful connection. Opening up leads to more pain. So next time, stay quiet. From then on, silence begins to feel safer than honesty. Not because they no longer need support, but because they no longer believe support will be there when they need it most. The painful truth is that one broken moment can shape years of emotional habits. Eventually, they stop expecting people to understand them. They stop asking to be heard. And without realizing it, they build walls so high that even the people who genuinely care about them can no longer find a way inside. The third hidden reason is something much deeper. It is called identity protection. Over the years, these people become known as the strong one, the dependable one, the person who never falls apart. Friends come to them for advice. Family depends on them during difficult times. Everyone assumes they have everything under control. At first, that role feels rewarding. But slowly, it becomes a prison. Because the longer they wear that image, the more terrifying it becomes to take it off. They begin to wonder, what if people see me differently? What if they lose respect for me? What if the person everyone depends on suddenly needs help? So they keep smiling. They keep performing. They keep carrying responsibilities that feel heavier every year. Not because they are pretending to be strong, but because they no longer know who they are without that identity. Eventually, protecting the image becomes easier than revealing the truth. And the fear of appearing vulnerable becomes even stronger than the pain they have been hiding all along. There is one more pattern that many of these people share. It is called hyper-independence. From the outside, it looks admirable. They solve every problem on their own. They rarely ask for help. They insist, I can handle it. People often mistake this for confidence. But in many cases, it is actually a survival strategy. Somewhere in their past, they learned that depending on others was risky. So they stopped depending on anyone. Little by little, self-reliance became emotional isolation. They convinced themselves that carrying everything alone was safer than risking disappointment again. The problem is that human beings were never meant to live that way. We are wired for connection, for support, for shared emotional experiences. The stronger they appear on the outside, the more exhausted they often become on the inside. Because no matter how capable someone is, everyone eventually reaches a weight that was never meant to be carried alone. One of the most fascinating things about these people is their ability to notice pain in others. They can sense when someone's smile is forced, when a laugh sounds different, when something feels off, even if nobody else notices. They are often the first to ask, "Are you okay?" The first to listen, the first to offer comfort. But when someone asks them the same question, they immediately say, "I'm fine." Why? Because they have spent so many years focusing on everyone else's emotions that they no longer know how to respond to their own. They easily recognize another person's suffering, but instinctively minimize their own. They believe other people deserve kindness, support, understanding. Yet somehow, they struggle to believe they deserve those same things. And that quiet contradiction keeps them trapped, always caring for everyone else, while silently hoping someone will notice the pain they never learned how to speak about. This is also why some people can appear completely happy, while quietly struggling every single day. Psychologists sometimes refer to this as masked depression. From the outside, everything looks normal. They go to work. They laugh with friends. They keep their promises. They take care of their family. Nothing about their life seems unusual. But beneath that routine, there is a constant emotional weight that never truly disappears. They are not pretending to be happy. They have simply become experts at hiding their pain. Over time, smiling becomes automatic. Saying, "I'm okay," becomes a habit. And eventually, even they begin to ignore what they are really feeling. That is what makes this pattern so dangerous. Because when pain is invisible, very few people know to ask about it. And the person carrying it often believes they have become so good at hiding it, that no one would understand even if they finally told the truth. So, can someone who has hidden their pain for years ever learn to open up? The answer is yes. But not through pressure. If you care about someone like this, telling them, "You need to talk," or, "You can trust me," is rarely enough. In fact, pushing too hard often makes them retreat even further. Because trust is not built through words. It is built through repeated experiences. They need to see that their feelings will not be judged, that their vulnerability will not be used against them, and that they do not have to earn the right to be understood. For someone who has spent years believing silence is the safest choice, feeling emotionally safe is far more powerful than hearing reassuring advice. Real healing usually begins with one simple realization. Not that every person can be trusted, but that there are people who are willing to stay, even after they finally tell the truth. And if you are the person this video has been describing, there is something you need to remember. You do not have to carry everything by yourself forever. The fact that you learned to survive without asking for help does not mean you were meant to live that way. Strength is not measured by how much pain you can hide. It is measured by your willingness to be honest when life becomes too heavy to carry alone. That does not mean telling everyone your story. It simply means allowing at least one person to see the real you. Because healing rarely begins the moment your pain disappears. It begins the moment you stop pretending it isn't there. You deserve the same compassion you so freely give to everyone else. And sometimes, the bravest words a person can ever say are not, "I'm fine." They are, "I need someone to listen." Perhaps the biggest misunderstanding about silent suffering is this. People believe time heals everything. But time alone does not heal emotions that are constantly hidden. It simply teaches people how to hide them better. Every feeling that is ignored, every fear that is buried, every tear that never falls, does not simply disappear. It waits. Sometimes for months. Sometimes for years. Until it shows itself in different ways. Through anxiety. Through emotional exhaustion. Through feeling disconnected from life. Or through the strange feeling of being surrounded by people, yet still feeling completely alone. That is why acknowledging your pain is not a sign of weakness. It is the first step toward understanding it. And understanding it is the first step toward healing it. You do not have to fix everything today. You do not have to tell everyone your story. But you do deserve to stop pretending that your pain is less important than everyone else's. Because the moment you begin treating your own emotions with the same kindness you offer others, real healing quietly begins.